Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
The opposition gives its full response to Dr. Minnis' hurricane claims.
The Attorney General gives an update on that probe into the mismanagement of public funds.
A former PLP member accuses the Christie administration of hijacking the party.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, opposition leader Phillip Davis says he's inviting the Minnis administration to do its job and govern the country instead of pointing fingers and blaming the Progressive Liberal Party for its shortcomings. During a press conference in the minority room of the House of Assembly today, Davis said while many issues still plague the nation, it appears the country is left with a new government that likes to whimper and complain. Kyle Joaquin reports.
To use his exact words, Davis said the FNM government under the leadership of Dr. Hubert Minnis is acting like a group of spoiled children in a candy store. He says there has to come a point where the FNM government stops complaining and whining and actually gets to governing.
Cut it out. Govern, please, or leave the job to someone who can.
Davis said the FNM is using a move from its old playbook, portraying the PLP as a party of crooks and thieves. This as one new cabinet minister after another in the Minnis administration revealed costly contracts awarded under the last Christie administration and questionable decisions made by former ministers, one of which was the decision to discontinue the country's tropical cyclone insurance policy, which Minnis says resulted in the loss of a $32 million payout. But Davis insists Minnis didn't tell the full story.
The Bahamas, after careful consideration on the advice of technical officers in the Ministry of Finance, the Met Department, the Port Department, and other members of agencies of government, took the decision to withdraw from Seacliff following the rejection of a claim under the insurance for Hurricane Joaquin in 2015.
He said the country wasn't able to claim after Joaquin because it was determined that damage was caused by flooding and not wind. He said when Matthew hit in 2016, the government was in the middle of negotiating new terms of the policy. But he said the FNM seems to be only interested in calling names and pointing fingers. And he wasn't alone. Fred Mitchell, the leader of opposition business in the Senate, let the government have it, saying it's clear the FNM is only throwing dirt because the Minnis cabinet is lost.
You come to office with no plan, no idea what you're going to do. And so you just say, oh, let me go in here and see what dirt I can throw at the PLP. And then, of course, knowing the gossipy nature of the society, everybody's running, oh, so-and-so got 8 million, this one got 1.2 million. You hear that? This and that, as if we're, you know, that's all this is.
There's also the claim made by Minnis on Tuesday that one company, Ash Enterprises, was paid nearly $8 million for post-Matthew cleanup. Another move the opposition called unacceptable, as Davis insisted the contractor has no ties to the PLP and had the equipment and expertise ready to go in an emergency situation.
I am further advised that the work for which the contractor was paid includes not just sums of money for his account, but to pay all of his subcontractors and suppliers who assisted in the cleanup that he supervised. The only question, if any, was whether value for money was obtained.
Mitchell, in defense of the previous administration, said eventually people will get tired of the blame game, which won't bode well for the current government.
They need to put some cash in Grand Bahama, because the economy in Grand Bahama is down to rock bottom. And we, before we left, were desperately trying to get the hotel plant up and going, get some construction going, because we knew that unless some money is put on the ground in Grand Bahama, serious problems will ensue. And they're wasting time on foolishness about what the PLP did. The PLP lost the election. Go get a life and govern. Stop being stupid.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, days after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis told Parliament that the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs have been asked to review the former government's decision to opt out of its Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility policy, AG Carl Bethel says his office has not received documentation in relation to those matters. In fact, Bethel says so far the AG's office has not received any complaints relating to the misconduct of a former government minister. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Attorney General says those files have yet to reach his office, but he says if and when they do, they will be thoroughly investigated.
We've not received any documentation as yet on any of those particular concerns that may have been expressed in the House of Assembly. I'm not prepared to prejudge. I have no information apart from what I may have read in the newspapers. And as I said, anything referred to the Attorney General's office, whether by another minister or by the general public, is referred to the appropriate officials for the appropriate treatment.
In the House of Assembly on Tuesday, Prime Minister Minnis told parliamentarians that he had asked the AG to review the decision to drop the CCRIF policy, which resulted in the loss of relief payouts of more than $32 million following devastation caused by Hurricane Matthew. Minnis said the decision demonstrates gross and stunning incompetence on the part of the Christie administration. When asked about possible legal ramifications, Bethel said it's too early to make that determination. However, he did say what has been raised in the House does not appear to be criminal in nature.
Well, I'm not sure that the Prime Minister would have gone that far as to indicate possible prosecutions, and I wouldn't either. I would say that the law is sufficiently mature, the common law, that certain acts could either be dealt with civilly, in civil law, or in some other way. But I do not believe that anything that has been said by anyone in Parliament has gone to the extent of raising any criminal concerns.
Bethel says while the files have yet to reach his office, at the end of the day the facts will be revealed.
Maybe people can rest assured that once we receive any form of complaint from anybody, we cause it to be referred to the appropriate officials for them to do whatever is necessary to determine what the facts are.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
In other news, though he remains gravely ill, former National Security Minister Dr. Burton Nottage is said to be making some progress, according to Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Bradley Roberts. Nottage was admitted to Doctors Hospital on Tuesday and remains in the intensive care unit. Roberts says there is a restricted list of visitors. However, former Prime Minister Perry Christie, former Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson, Commissioner of Police Alison Greenslade, and former Minister of Health Dr. Ronald Knowles all joined members of the Nottage family at the hospital. Roberts says they are hoping that the former MP recovers and urged Bahamians to pray for him. Nottage, who is also a former Minister of Health, lost his Bainstown and Grantstown seat in Parliament in the May 10th general election. Well, opposition leader and former Minister of Works Phillip Davis says the allegation that Arrington Minky Isaacs received a no-bid contract from the Bahamas Electricity Corporation is false. According to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, Isaacs, who's a chairman emeritus in the PLP, secured a nearly $2 million contract from Bahamas Power and Light to clean up oil. Today, Davis, who had ministerial responsibility for BPL under the Christie administration, sought to clarify.
I'm advised that the contract was put to bid and Mr. Isaacs' company was the successful bidder. The issue here is not how much was paid, but whether value for money was obtained for the work given. Our advice is that it was.
Davis says being associated with the PLP does not disqualify someone from bidding for work with state-owned enterprises. Although the contract was for oil cleanup, Isaacs yesterday told the Nassau Guardian that he's a pilot by profession and didn't know much about oil cleanup. Davis says it's not unusual for company owners who aren't experts in a field to be granted contracts for certain work.
I don't think it's unknown for persons who may not have an expertise to bid on a project and ensure that and to hire the expertise that is necessary. That is not unknown. It would then be for BEC to ensure that he was carrying out the works in accordance with the arrangement that he would have had, and if they were satisfied that he was doing it and that he had the resources to carry out the contract, as I said, is a matter for them.
Well, Senator Fred Mitchell says he's seeking protection from Parliament in the wake of what he called defamatory attack ads that have been printed in a local newspaper in the weeks following the May 10th general election. Mitchell says he is satisfied the ads are designed to injure and silence him in his office. April Sands has that story.
You know, I'm flattered that they're Bahamians against Mitchell, you know. But it's a, you know, what I gather is it's one of these scatological campaigns where they put together a set of headlines from old newspapers, which they themselves generated, and create a false and defamatory picture of what my public life is.
A number of full-page ads have surfaced from an organization called Committee to Protect the Bahamas Against Mitchell. The former cabinet minister called the ads defamatory, asserting that they are designed to injure him in his office by the use of money which cannot be matched by his private or party resources, and therefore disclose a breach of privilege. Mitchell says he now looks to Parliament for its protection.
It's calculated to injure my public life. Now, you know, these kind of skunks who hide anonymously behind these exercises, you know, I'm not going to stand for that. I don't think it has any impact.
Mitchell also raised the issue of parliamentary privilege and government's decision to drop an appeal on parliamentary privilege involving environmental group Save the Bays and former cabinet minister Jerome Fitzgerald. The former government had appealed last year's ruling by Justice Indra Charles that Fitzgerald had breached the constitutional right to privacy of directors of Save the Bays by reading private emails of its members in the House of Assembly. Government filed notice of its intent to drop its case. Mitchell says it was a poor decision by the F&M government that will hurt future MPs.
As I said when I was a member of this House and now a member of the next House, it has no effect on me whatsoever because I believe in freedom of speech. So I speak and say whatever I want to say, wherever I want to say it. Senate or out of Senate, House or out of Senate. That's the Bahamas. It's a free place. And it's ridiculous that anybody could talk about injuncting a member of Parliament, which is the highest forum in the country.
For the freedom of speech.
For freedom of speech. It is a breach of the privilege of a member of Parliament to interfere with that right to free speech.
Mitchell says in due course, he also plans to ask a series of parliamentary questions about Save the Bays and whether it has complied with a request by the Registrar General to disclose certain information. Reporting for our news, I'm April Sands.
Meanwhile, while government is concerned with the level of exemptions granted under the heads of terms signed for Baha Mar back in 2016, Attorney General Carl Bethel says the Minnis administration has no plans on going back on those terms between the former administration, China Exim Bank, and Perfect Luck for the sale of Baha Mar.
People may argue about, well, it's all of these work permits or whatever, but is there anything fundamentally unconscionable? No, I'm afraid that it could not be said that that is so. Yeah, there's no basis to go back on it.
In the House of Assembly on Tuesday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis released the heads of terms the former government signed on August 22, 2016 with the Export-Import Bank of China, Perfect Luck Claims Limited, and Perfect Luck Assets Limited regarding the sale of Baha Mar. The unsealed deal revealed that the Christie administration agreed to issue up to 1,200 work permits to China Construction America for completion of the resort. The government also agreed to waive stamp duty and value-added tax on the transfer of assets from the Baha Mar Limited group of companies to Perfect Luck Assets Limited. Bethel says at the end of the day, it's a trade-off.
But at the end of the day, it is a trade-off. Let's accept the reality that not only countries like the Bahamas, major cities in North America, in Europe, they do exactly the same thing. They provide tax and investment incentives to spur and encourage investments in their cities. It is not only something done in the Bahamas or in this region, and so it's not anything that we should be ashamed of. That's the nature of business.
Still to come on our news, why a former PLP MP says the party should apologize to Bahamians. That and more when our news returns.